Join me as we learn Chumash for Wednesday, Parsha Shemini, chapter 10, verse 12. Yesterday we learned about the tragic events of Aaron's two sons who passed away on the day of his inauguration as the high priest. And as Aaron accepted this terrible fate, and he realized and he did not protest or say anything about it, he was rewarded by the fact that God came and told him alone the laws pertaining that a Kohen may not serve while intoxicated. Today the Torah continues that after the bodies were removed from the tabernacle, now that the service had to go back to the way it was to the day of the inauguration, the question was, would they eat from the remaining sacrifices, or do they refrain from eating it because they are in mourning? Chapter 10, verse 12. Vayidaber Moshe al Aaron v'Elazar v'Isamar banov hanisarim. And Moshe spoke to Aaron and to the surviving sons of Aaron, Elazar and Isamar. Kechu es hamincha, take the grain offering, haneseres, the remaining one, the one that was left over. Me'ishe Hashem, from the sacrifices, from the God's fire offerings. V'ichlua matzahs, and you will eat it as unleavened bread, as matzahs. Eitzel HaMizbeach, next to the altar, ki kodesh kadashim hi, because they are of superior holiness. Rashi. First of all, why does he call them the surviving children? So Rashi explains, Min hamisa, they are survived from dying. Melamed, it comes to teach us, Sha'af aleim niknesa misa, that technically even on these sons they were also supposed to die. And they survived. And why were they supposed to die? Alavena egel, because of the sin of the golden calf that was caused by Aaron. For who should never, and that's why it says later on in the book of Deuteronomy, that also in Aaron God was upset and he looked to destroy him. The ein hashmada lekilubanim, the word to destroy and get rid of means that he will not, that his children will die. Shenemer, as it says in the book of Amos, the eshmit pirya mimal, and I will destroy his fruit from above, meaning that the same way you destroy a fruit from a tree, so too, and that's called the word hashmada, so too the concept of destroying one's children in their lifetime. However, the prayer of Moshe was able to nullify half of the decree. Shenemar, as he continues there in the book of Deuteronomy, Moshe says, that I prayed for Aaron, for the sake of Aaron at that time as well. To take the meal offering, the grain offering, even though you're technically mourning, and the holy type of food are now forbidden for a mourner to eat, still in all, you are going to be eating it because you're not going to be observing the mourning period, because since it's a time of celebration for the Jewish people. Es hamincha, which meal offering? Zu mincha shmini o minchas nachshen. There were two meal offerings, if you recall, as we're going to talk about later in the book of Numbers, where it talks about at the day of inauguration, there were the 12 leaders brought meal offerings and animals and a celebration and inauguration for the Holy Temple. So therefore there was that meal offering as well. There was the meal offering from the sacrifices that were brought on the 8th day. And you would eat it matzis. Why does it have to tell me that he's going to eat it as unleavened bread? Weren't all grain offerings all unleavened? Because this is a meal offering of the community, which was only at that time and not for future generations, just like the one that Nachshon brought for the first day of the leaders, minchasha, and therefore the concept of this meal offering was only to be able to inaugurate the altar. And there aren't, and there won't be again like this for future generations. Therefore, therefore you have to explain clearly that this was going to be like all other meal offerings, that they will have a chance to eat it as well as to eat it in unleavened bread. Verse 13. You must eat them in a holy place. Because this is your portion and your son's portion. Hashem, from God's fire offering. For so I have been commanded. Verse 13. Meaning to your sons, but not to the daughters. Because since the daughters are not allowed to eat from the holy sacrifices of the meal offerings, and this was only done for the sons who were serving in the holy temple. This is the reason why he's allowing them to eat. He's saying, why is it permitted for you to eat even though you are in mourning? So he says, because I was commanded by God, that they should eat it even while they're mourning. Verse 14, then there were also other portions from the peace offerings and all of those things of the tabernacle offerings, and therefore he says you must take, and you must take and eat the breast that was used as the wave offering and the thigh that was used for the raised offering. You must eat it in a holy place, in an undefiled place. Ata, you, Vanecha, and your sons, Vanesecha, and your daughters, itach, together with you. Because this is your portion and the portion of your children. Nitnu were given Israel from the sacrifices of the peace offerings of the Jewish people. So it was given to the sons, but unable to be shared with the daughters. In contrast to what we mentioned before concerning the meal offerings. What are the breasts of the wave offerings, used for wave offerings? Which these were the communal sacrifices that were from the peace offerings that were brought. Why does he have to say they have to eat it in a place which is clean and filed? Did they eat the other ones in a place which was impure? Ella, it's coming to tell me that this case is a little more lenient. The first type of sacrifices, which they were absolute holiness, the highest level of holiness, had to be eaten in a holy place, like in the tabernacle, in the courtyard of the tabernacle. However, these they do not have to be eaten within the boundaries of the tabernacle. They still have to be eaten within the camps of the Jewish people. In a place which is undefiled, a place where a place where a metzora, a person with leprosy, is not allowed to enter, as we're going to explain in next week's Torah reading when we talk about the person with leprosy, that he had to go outside the three camps. And therefore, Mekan, we learn from here, that in the time of the Holy Temple, you were allowed to eat such type of sacrifices throughout the city of Jerusalem. You, your sons and your daughters, who are the ones that get to divide it, and you split it up evenly between you and your sons. Meaning the daughters, you do not take into account the daughters. However, they can give from their portion, they can share with the daughters. That the women are allowed to eat from the thigh and the breast. Or maybe does it mean that also the daughters can get a portion, and you do have to take them into consideration? Talmud Leimar, therefore, if we look at the future of the pasuk, further on in the verse when it says, the very fact that the Torah concludes the verse by saying it is a portion for you and to your sons. A portion, meaning that who do you take into account when you're splitting it up, was only the sons. Can the sons share with the daughters? Yes, they're able to, but the daughters are not part of the calculation of when they split it up. Verse 15, Sheik HaTruma, bringing Sheik HaTruma v'chazei HaTanufa, the thigh that was waved as a raised offering, and the breast that was used as the wave offering, al ishei achalovim yaviu, they should be placed on top of the fats of the fire offering, lahanif tenufa l'Hashem, to be as a wave offering before God, v'hayu l'chol v'necha itcha, and it will be to you and your children with you, l'chok olam, for an eternal entitlement for generations to come, kasher tziva Hashem, like God has commanded. Rashi, sheik hatruma v'chazei hatanufa, Loshin Asharhuna Fasharhudam. This is taken from the language that was waved and that was lifted. Tanufa means waved from all different directions. Utruma means to be brought up and down. Why does the Torah use up and down by the thigh and waving by the breast? Well, that we don't know. Why the Torah has to separate the two? Sheshneim, because the fact is that both of them have to be waved and raised up and down. Al ishei achalovim, on the fiery fats, k'moi al chelvei ha'ishim, on the fats of the fire that's brought. Mikan, from here we learn shechalovim lamata b'shas trufa, that the fats were beneath, were on the bottom when they would raise the different parts of the animal. The yishuv ha'mekroi shleichishu zeh kvar pirashti eshloshtam b'tzav esarin, and the fact that how do you explain that the verse doesn't contradict, because one time it says it's on top and the other time it says it's on bottom. Rashi explained it previously 3 times in the Torah reading of Tzav, is because when they pass it, they turn it over to the next person, so at times it's on top and at times it's on bottom. This concludes the 4th Torah reading of Parshas Shemini.